pastor. It stands on the truth without fear or favor. And he comes straight with no chaser. Children, and just God be praised for them. Minister Wittenberg, Minister Hudson, and see, now you wearing that hat. Incredibly gifted. Thank God for you. It's good to see pastor and people have fun. Amen. Just because you follow Christ doesn't mean you have to not have fun. Together with one another. We're in a pretty sad state. So again, God be praised for him, what he's doing here at this great church. I want to look at this morning two passages of scripture. One is found in John chapter 13. John chapter 13, I'll begin reading at verse 34. This is what it says. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. Flip over to Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you to walk worthy of the calling with which you were called, with all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another in love. Amen. Love still works. Amen. You may be seated. Thank God for the presence of my wife and my daughters and my brother who traveled with me from Oakland. God be praised for them. There's something incredible and transformative about love. I'm not talking about eros, that kind of erotic love. Not talking about filio, that brotherly love. Sorge, that brother love between a mother and a son. A father and a daughter, brother and a sister. But there's something about this thing called agape love. Amen. That's the kind of love that still works. Eros might last for a moment. Brotherly love might be tested. love between a mother and a father, a son and a daughter, all of those will be tested, but there's something about this thing, agape love, that is very transformative. And I believe Jesus knew that because he makes it clear in this text. He says, I've given you a command.
Yeah.
Not a suggestion.
That's right.
Not a recommendation.
Play.
But he says, I have commanded you that you love one another as I have loved you.
Amen.
Jesus seems to be saying that the litmus test as to whether or not you really love me is how you love one another.
Amen.
And perhaps the challenge of the church is that we have a lot of folks who have not decided as to whether or not they are a disciple or a decoy. A decoy kind of looks like a devil.
All right.
There is an artist who has painstakingly and very meticulously painted this decoy that looks so much like the original. And maybe one of the challenges for us, and perhaps all of us from time to time, need to reflect and ask the question, am I a disciple of Christ? Because if I'm a disciple, my behavior ought to give me away. There's some who say, if you were charged with being a Christian, would there indeed be enough evidence to convict you? And I would hope that in our case, there would indeed be enough evidence to convict us as followers of Christ and not decoy. You see, the decoy may show up on Sunday morning. They may know some church language. I'm too blessed to be stressed. I'm highly favored, and you know them. But if you want to move from a decoy to a disciple, Jesus seems to be saying that there ought to be something on the inside that comes out on the outside. So that you are a genuine disciple of mine. See, let me put it right here. A disciple is one who hears the word of God, who hears the precepts and the principles of God, and they make a decision, an intentional choice to follow what God has said. It does not matter what you think, what you feel. I want what I do to line up with what the word of God says. Therefore, I don't want to be a decoy. I want to be a disciple. And the text is tailored to teach us that when we are a disciple, we are to love one another. I know that's hard for us. In a society that's based on rugged individualism and have it your way and do your own thing, but Jesus is saying that when you hook up with me, it's about more than just you. Because now I want you to love each other as I have loved you. So then the question comes, how do we work this thing out? Because I think that's our biggest challenge. Listen, most of us know enough Bible by now that if we just begin to live what we know, there'd be a whole lot of love from pew to pew and from heart to heart and from breast to breast. So here he makes it so clear that there are some things that you and I can do as we try to love one another. That's what I like about this 4th chapter of Ephesians. The Apostle Paul lays it out for us. So if you're ever unsure of what your role ought to be in terms of unity of the church, how we are to love one another, I recommend to you just hang out for a moment in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, and you'll get some good, solid information about how you can live out this church unity, how we can love one another. Remember, my key word is intentional.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So if you're not going to be intentional, then I suggest you not even look at it. Because it really does not apply. But if by chance you really want to begin to take your discipleship seriously, and you really want to know what God requires of me, he tells us right here. Paul begins by saying, therefore, walk worthily, your daily walk, your calling as a Christian. He says, walk with lowliness. Lowliness and gentleness. That's the prerequisite. That's the first thing you and I ought to do as believers, as members of the body of Christ. How we handle each other very humbly. Respond to one another in humility and gentleness. Because see, the Romans and the Greeks did not like this word humility and humble. They were very proud people. So now he's telling them, I want you to be a counterculture walk. I don't want you to walk like the world. I want you to walk different because you have been called out from among them. You are now mine. Therefore, I want you to walk worthy of your calling. If you are a Christian, if you are a child of God, he's suggesting that we ought to act like it. That we ought to be humble and gentle with one another. Okay. This thing, humility here is something because that's one of the characteristics of Jesus. Jesus was meek and lowly. He said, learn about me, for I'm meek and humble. Learn about me. Just watch how I act. And then you get a good indication how you ought to behave. You see, Jesus was very humble. Jesus was always others-centered.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Always others-centered. So he knew something about humility drawing people. You see in the Gospels, and the crowd thronged Jesus. That means the crowd always was gathering around Jesus because Jesus cared about people. He cared about what they cared about. And wouldn't it be wonderful if those of us who are in the body of Christ begin to care about each other, and we begin to walk in each other's skin a little bit more. Time out for folks taking their long or short bony fingers being critical about somebody else. You all the way up here, and most of us down here. Jesus was always meek. He never thought more, and Romans talks about, don't think more highly of yourself than you ought. That doesn't mean you ought to have self-respect for yourself. No. He said, just don't think more highly. Be highly, but not more highly. I'm amazed at how we act sometimes. We get a new zip code, get a few coins. You can't tell us anything. Unapproachable. Ain't nobody taking nothing more than that. The smartest one in the room in the building. But he's suggesting to us that if we are going to demonstrate love toward another, there has to be humility and gentleness. Let me tell you something. Each and every one of us has a situation in our lives right now where we need God's immediate attention. The fact is, he keeps reminding me that I'm not where I think I am. Now, baby, you still relying on me. I woke you up this morning and what you love. I'm providing for you. I'm blessing you. I work in downtown Baltimore, not far around the corner from Lexington Mall. Oh yeah. And my daughter teased me because we drive in together, and I walk through the market to get to where I live. The market is something. Yes, sir.